You absolutely can get your kids through college without taking student loans. And we are proof of that. We are finally through the first year of my oldest son's college career. He's home for the summer, and I just wanted to take some time and look back financially at how freshman year of college went. So, first things first, we applied for every scholarship that he qualified to apply for. So at his school, there are what are called foundation scholarships. And that is just a list of like hundreds and hundreds of scholarships that are made possible through the school, made possible through benefactors to the school, made possible through local charities and that kind of thing. And the school just has a list. And you go through and you can search them, or you can go through every single one like I did and just read the qualifications for every single scholarship that the school allows you to apply for. And so that was step one. Step one is applying for every scholarship at your school that you qualify for. And second step was actually saving up some money. And we had put some money very recently into a 529. So I guess for those of you who are like, well, I didn't start a 529 when my kid was born, or 2 years old, or 5 years old, or 10 years old. I didn't start a 529. Well, you know what? It's not too late. You can always start a 529. I think your kid just has to be a kid. So when we got our 529 for educational expenses, my son was still 17. He was 17. He was a senior in high school when we opened our 529. Now you might be saying, well, what good does that do? It doesn't grow. Well, that's true. It doesn't have time to grow. So obviously 529s are designed for families who want to, start saving early for college. And that money is invested over time and it grows like the same way that, any investment account that you open up will grow over time. And that is a great way to save for college. But we didn't have the know-how and the knowledge and the money back then to be able to do that. So what's the advantage of opening a 529 when your kid is 17 years old? Well, you can still use that account for all educational expenses, which includes, I'll tell you some things we use it for. We use it for tuition, obviously. We used it for books. We used it for music, since my son is a musician. So if he needs to buy music or music books to learn, it covers that. We also bought him a new computer to take to school, and that had all of the educational software on it. And so through our 529, we're able to make all of those purchases. Now, how you do that, if like for tuition, the money can go straight from the 529 to the school. And it's like a process. You can either do bill pay, or you can have them cut a check, or whatever it is, whatever way your school allows you to take the money from the 529 and give it to the school. It's like a direct thing. But for everything else, like books and the computer and stuff like that, we pay for that. Like you pay for it out of your pocket, and then you reimburse yourself from the 529 for those educational expenses. It works a lot like an HSA. If you've ever had a health savings, you know that if you pay anything out of pocket for whatever reason for a health savings, then you can reimburse yourself unqualified health-related purchases and expenses. And it's the same way for a 529. So you just pay for the books out of pocket, or you pay for the computer out of pocket, You pay for the music books out of pocket, and then you reimburse yourself from the 529. So it's still a great tax advantage thing, right? Because you're still getting the tax advantage on all of the tuition and all of the books and the supplies and everything. So it's still to your advantage to put that money into the 529 just to dispense it, even if it hasn't had time to grow. It still works in your favor to take all educational expenses from the 529. So that's the second thing. And so, yeah, at the end of this year, let's just talk specifically about like my son. He did get a few scholarships, and our school, and one of the reasons that we selected this school is because if your family earns under a certain amount every year, you get what's called the tuition promise. And our income fluctuates. We are full-time content creators, so our income fluctuates a lot. Some years are very abundant, and other years are very sparse. And so if you make, under a certain amount of money, you can qualify for the tuition promise. And that scholarship, which is, I believe, from the state, paid for, I would say, the majority, well, maybe half. Maybe it paid half his tuition, or almost half. Almost half. But then he earned a piano scholarship, and he earned an academic scholarship, and he earned a distinction scholarship. And so, like, academic distinction scholarship. So between all of those scholarships, we were only responsible for, a few $1,000s of his first year. And thankfully, we had the money. We had been saving money, and so we had the money for the first year. And so we got through and I have to tell you a super funny story about money. I already did a video about it, which I think I am gonna put up here when I'm done, just so you can hear the full story, because it is pretty hilarious. But looking back over the year, I learned a lot. I learned a lot financially. We're grateful for all of the scholarships that he was able to get based on talent and based on academic distinction. And we are grateful for the tuition promise that we were able to get. And we are grateful that we had the money to pay the balance. And so we end freshman year not owing anything to anyone. And I'm really grateful. I'm grateful I got to learn how the whole 529 thing actually works. And even if we're only putting money in it to disperse it, it's okay. It's totally fine. It's the point of the 529 when you get it when your child is small is for it to grow exponentially over the years. The point of getting it later is simply to get the tax advantage of not having any of those educational expenses, that money taxed. So there's still an advantage, and you should still do it if you're going to have educational expenses for your kids. So looking back over this year of my son's freshman year of college, I'm really, really glad that we selected this school. I think that affording college has everything to do with selecting the right school. Because many parents think that when you're selecting a college that you have to go to the college that your child wants to go to, that your child is so excited about because they have this program or that program. And it's world renowned for this, or it's world renowned for that. And we could have really gotten caught up in the whole because my son is a pianist, we could have gotten caught up in the whole, like, he has to go to a conservatory, like he has to go to Juilliard, he has to go to Eastman, he has to go to Curtis, he has to go to Oberlin. And we could have gotten caught up in, he has to go, or Peabody, goodness gracious, all of these music conservatories that we investigated in the years that he was in high school, like, they have a hefty price tag. Hefty price tag. So if you are not like the absolute tippity top and getting like full scholarship, then how are you going to be able to afford it? These schools are like 50 grand or more a year. I'm like, we don't have that kind of money, and we are not taking student loans. So thankfully, thankfully, my husband and my son visited a conservatory, and they visited his current school, and they visited what was then a local school to us. It's great for music, and what we decided is that he was just going to go the state school route. He's not going to go to a private school. He's not going to go to a conservatory. He is not going to, be in competition with the absolute tippity top best of the best. He's going to go to a state school, and he's going to be the tippity top best of the best. And maybe I'm revealing too much here, but these are my own thoughts. Okay, these are not my son's thoughts. I'm going to tell you that right now. These are not my son's thoughts. These are not my husband's thoughts. These are my thoughts. When they visited my son's current school, he had like an instant connection with the piano teacher. And that, in the piano world, is the absolute most important thing, is that you connect with your teacher. And I think they knew instantaneously. They had already been to 2 other schools by the time they went to this one. And they knew the moment they met him, and the moment they looked around the campus, and the moment that he felt like the sort of like quiet, surrounded by nature, the atmosphere, the environment, and then meeting that piano teacher who was going to be his teacher should he go there, they instantaneously knew. Now, my own thoughts are this. If you go to a conservatory, you are competing with the best of the best. Underclassmen don't have a whole lot of real world experience because of the competition, and also because graduate students usually get a lot of the benefits of experience and being able to have various opportunities that help them become a better musician. So it is my opinion that at a smaller school, it's kind of like the whole big fish, small pond, right? You go to a conservatory, you are a tiny, tiny fish in a very large pond filled with tremendous amounts of people with talent. And if you go to a smaller place that's not a conservatory, you can kind of be the big fish in the small pond. There's not a whole lot of students in the program. And because of his length of years playing, and he often has more experience than the other people in his program. So he gets to sort of be like the big fish in the small pond, which has nothing to do with ego. Nothing at all to do with ego. And it has everything to do with opportunity. So the same kinds of opportunities that conservatory students wouldn't get until they were in graduate school, he's getting as a freshman. When they have world-renowned pianists come to the school, visiting pianists who do recitals and they do master classes and they give lessons to the students. He gets to experience that as a freshman, an 18-year-old working one-on-one with world-class pianists. And he gets to do a ton of things. He got to accompany the choir. He got to accompany the orchestra. He got to play in various duos and ensembles, and is learning and being exposed to so much so early. And I think that is the absolute biggest advantage of going to a small school with a small department as opposed to, a massive conservatory where the underclassmen aren't getting the same kind of experience at their age. So a lot of being able to afford school, a lot of being able to afford school is choosing a school that's affordable. I mean, even state schools these days, they're not cheap. Nothing is cheap. But he worked really hard. He worked really hard. He went to a governor's school for the arts for all 4 years of high school. And so entering college, he'd already had 4 years of theory. He'd already had 4 years of ear training. He'd already had, piano lessons with, various teachers and who, work in the industry. And so he really went there already with so many advantages, and he is getting to do so many things and having so many opportunities. And that came right down to school selection. We chose a less expensive state school because it's more affordable. And he's probably paying over the course of all 4 of his years here, I'm thinking that we would probably pay less than 1 year in a conservatory. I think that's pretty much what it's going to come out to. We will pay less than 1 year at a conservatory for all 4 years. So that's one big thing if you're thinking about sending your kids off to school. Choose those state schools. Dave Ramsey would say, choose those state schools. That's one thing that made it super affordable. And so looking forward to next year. He has some homework assignments and goals that he needs to work on and achieve over the summer. But looking financially towards sophomore year, we don't have as much money saved. I'm just going to tell you that. Honestly, we don't have as much money saved as we did for the first year. And so this is, a lot of things are changing for us. Like I told you, we're full-time content creators. So our income goes up and down. And right now our income is in a down. It's in a downward spiral. And so, yes, we have some money saved. It's just not allocated for tuition. If we have to allocate it for tuition, we will. It's not like he's not going to be able to go back to school. We have emergency fund money. Thank you, Dave Ramsey. We have emergency fund money, but when your income is going down, that's when you pull from the emergency fund. So you still don't want to pull tuition from the emergency fund. But if tuition becomes an emergency, because we aren't able to come up with the money before, the tuition is due, then it becomes an emergency. And then you just go on with life, right? But I just hope and pray that this year he gets even more scholarships, because the ones he had last year should carry over to this year, and he applied for more. So each year there are different scholarships that maybe you didn't qualify for as a freshman because they're not for freshmen. Maybe there are new scholarships that are available for sophomores or upperclassmen. There are things that are very specific, and so every year you have to go back and you have to look again and you have to apply some more. And so we're just hoping and praying and trusting that God is going to provide, because that is what he does. And we have drawn a line in the sand that we will not take a student loan. So every year when we fill out the FAFSA, then eventually it will show up in his school account. All the scholarships will show up, and all of the grants, because he even got a grant last year, a small one, but still it's free money. He got a grant last year, and in addition to the scholarships and the tuition promise, and so we're hoping that there's more. We hope that the tuition promise comes through again. We hope that all the scholarships that he got last year carry over, because he got straight A's, and that's really the only thing that would make him not get the scholarships again, because you have to keep up your grades in order to have those scholarships renew. So he's got the grades. He's got straight A's for his first year of college, and so through tuition promise, through scholarships he earned, through new scholarships that he applied for, and the money that we do have saved, we're hoping that sophomore year will be paid for, and we just look forward to seeing how God surprises us with all of that. But when we go into the school thing and we see all the scholarships and we see that there might be a grant there, there's also like student loans. Obviously, when you fill out the FAFSA, they tell you how much you qualify for in student loans. You just don't choose them. Like, you deselect them. We have to go in and we have to check the boxes for everything we want to accept. We want to accept grants. We want to accept scholarship. We want to accept the tuition promise. We do not want to accept any student loan that is offered to us. And when you're not sure whether you're going to have the money in time, that can just feel like, oh, well, you know what? We can just leave it checked. We can get the money. We can always give it back. No, don't ever do that. Don't ever do that. Don't ever, 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 ever check the box accepting a student loan. I could tell you stories about my student loan experience that, well, they make me sad. They make me cry because they've been following me my whole life. And someday I'll get around to telling that story. If you want to hear that story, put in the comments that you want me to do a video about my student loan story. I'm almost 54 and they're still here. And so, if you want me to tell that story, I can make a video about that. That's just kind of a rough and raw place. But, yeah, we trust God with that too. And I think, I remember, I was going to tell you a story. I'm going to put the video right here for you to choose. Okay, I'm going to put the video right here in just a second. It is the story about how my son didn't use any of his food dollars his entire freshman year of school because he's just a routine guy, and how much money he had, and he had to spend it by the end of the year. And so that video tells the story of how much money he had to spend in 3 weeks. 3 weeks. 3 weeks. We found out 3 weeks before the end of the school year how much money he still had in food dollars that had to be spent by the end of the year or they would be lost. And so it's the story of how he spent the money and how much fun it was. So anyway, thank you for listening and thank you for watching. And if you like this video, give it a big old thumbs up and please subscribe to my channel and let me know what other things you want to hear about, because I would love to have ideas from you about what to make videos about. So that's it. Freshman year of college, all done, no debt. praise the Lord.